From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Encourages kids to be proud of who they are. Her latest book, The Dreammaker's Daughter. Please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you. Okay. It's really, really nice to be here. It's really exciting for me. I've never done anything like this before. And it's lovely to see you all, so thank you very much for coming. And if anyone is called Wilson Kimeli, then I'm sorry, I've got your water, but someone gave it me. So I'm sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about various aspects of my writing life and how I came to do it. And then I'm going to do that for about 15 or 20 minutes. And then at some point, there's somebody in the audience who has cards that kind of go at me, I think. And that's when I stop and you can ask questions. So do feel free to ask me anything you like. And I have a few props. So I'm going to tell you about how I started off. Because people often ask, when you're a writer, they say, how did you start and when did you start writing? So my first prop is this. It's a scrappy piece of newspaper, which is from 1979. And who remembers 1979? Okay. It was a long, long time ago. This was when I had my first piece of literature published. It was a poem, and it was in the Manchester Evening News, because I come from England, and Manchester was the nearest city where they had a big newspaper like that. And it was a poem called Jinx's Shop, and I was 9 years old. So I was really thrilled to have this in the newspaper. And I think nowadays children sometimes ask me about being a writer, and often they enjoy writing themselves. So I always think that it's nice for me to be able to tell you that there are ways that you can get things published in local papers and magazines, and it's not all about just the books and just to enjoy it. Anyway, do you want to hear my poem from when I was 9? Okay. So this is Jinx's Shop. And those of you who are good at maths, by the way, and have worked out, from 9 years old in 1976 and, what that makes me now, then, okay, that's fine. Thank you. Jinx had a shop, and I don't think I've told you. He had lots of things there that he could have sold you. Cameras and records and watches and clocks and puppets on strings and a jack-in-the-box. And when Jinx's friends walked into the shop, they saw little Jinx running hoppity-hop up to the door to greet them good day. And he always had lots of things he could say. I went to the circus, said Jinx to one friend, and there was a man there who could even bend a long tube of iron. And when it was curved, the ringmaster said that ice creams would be served. Now, although Jinx had lovely stories to tell, he had better things than stories to sell. And he is still happily living away from then at that time to this very day. So there we go. So when I was between about 8 and 10, I used to want to be a writer. When I grew up, I wanted to be a poet, and that was one of my poems. And I made a little book here, so you have the genuine... Oh, God. Oops, sorry. This is my genuine 9-year-old handwriting. There we go. Which I think, this was my best handwriting, so if you think it's scruffy, then you should see it when I wasn't even trying. So then it was a few years later than 1976. It was quite a lot of years later. I was teaching, and I was in a job where I was working with teenagers who were all, after my classes, they were going off to university, and they were all doing these really exciting creative things. And I started feeling like I was a bit of a signpost in other people's lives, and I wanted to do something exciting and creative myself, which is when Emily came along. Now, okay. See, I was given her. When you write books about mermaids, it's great because when it's your birthday, your friends just buy you mermaid stuff. So I got corkscrews, and anyway, I got all sorts of mermaid things. So this was Emily, and the first book actually started off as a poem. And it began, it was called The Ballad of Mary Penelope's Boat, and it began with I just had an idea for a few lines, which was, Mary Penelope lived on a boat, which was all very well, but it didn't quite float. It wavered and wobbled and fell on its side whenever she tried to go out for a ride. Anyway, it went on a lot. And And then a friend's editor had a look at it and said to her, hey, Liz has got quite a good idea here, but, she should try writing this as a book instead. So she told me that, and at first I thought, well, I tried, and then after about 5 pages of this novel, I'd told the whole story of the poem. So I had to think of a bit more. And eventually I ended up with The Tale of Emily Windsnap, which I'm not going to read from today because this is like from ages ago, and, I'm hoping a few of you will have read this. This was the first of what became a series of 3 so far about Emily, who, I've got someone holding their book out at me. That's always nice. Thank you. Oh, and there's a few there. Thank you. What, is that it? Oh, yeah, well, okay, thanks. All right, enough. Any more? No. Okay, so I wrote 3 books about Emily, who's a girl who, she's an ordinary girl, and she lives in just normal, contemporary kind of times like ours. She has the same kind of problems that other kids have. She wants to fit in. She doesn't want to be too different. Only problem is that, when she goes swimming, she finds out that she becomes a mermaid, which kind of does make her a little bit different from most of the others. So she has to deal with this, and she has lots of adventures. So I'd written 3 of these books, and I decided it was time for a change. Now, this one's going to be a bit harder to see, but this was what came next. Okay, can anybody see this? It's a shame you can't do the equivalent of a microphone with the... She's a fairy, anyway. Can anybody see it? Can one person at the front see? So you can confirm for me. Yeah, okay, they confirmed. This is a fairy in my hand. So the next thing that came after the Emily Windsnap books was I wanted to do something different. I'd spent 3 or 4 years with the same characters who I loved and I was enjoying, but I wanted to start afresh. And I didn't really know what I was going to do, but one day I was talking to a friend about something that had happened to me when I was about 8 years old. I'd been in my back garden at home, and I was making a daisy chain. Does anyone know what I mean? Do you make daisy chains? Yeah? Okay. But I heard that you make them out of dandelions in America. Well, wouldn't they be dandelion chains? No? You still call them daisy chain? Okay. And so I picked this daisy, and as soon as I picked it, I just had this really strong feeling that it was going to become a fairy at midnight. And so I went inside, and I had a little tin box that a friend had given me, and I carefully put the daisy inside it, and I put it on the ledge in my bedroom, and then I just waited for midnight. And this was kind of in the afternoon, when it's sunny and everything's really, everything looks nice on a sunny afternoon. And then as it started getting towards evening and it started getting darker, things started changing. Now, I don't know if anyone else has this, but say you're out one day in a beautiful forest and in the daylight and the sun's streaming through the trees and it's so beautiful. And then at night, somehow or other, it looks different and you know that there's monsters behind all the trees going, whoa, I'm going to get you. Yeah? Is it just me? So it started feeling a bit different. And I started getting scared, and I was thinking, as soon as this has turned into a fairy, I'm not in control anymore. It could be anything. I don't know its personality. It could be really scary. It could be dangerous. It could just overwhelm me with too much, really creepy magic. And I ended up just getting myself into such a state of fear and panic that I scrunched up the daisy and I threw it out the window. And then in the morning, I was absolutely devastated because I just knew that I'd thrown away my one and only chance to have a fairy of my own. And anyway, so it was some years later, I told a friend of mine this story, and she said, well, Liz, you're a writer, so, that actually doesn't have to be how the story ends. And so, in fact, I spent a little while thinking about it, and then I thought, actually, do you know what? I don't think that is how the story ends. And then came the book that I don't actually have here. But it's called Philippa Fisher's Fairy Godsister. And, it's the one before that. Thank you, though. And it starts in the same way. It's a girl called Philippa Fisher who does exactly what I did, but her story ends very, very, very differently. And actually, my latest book is the sequel to that one, and it's called Philippa Fisher and the Dreammaker's Daughter. And this is the second. Thank you. This is the second in the series about Philippa Fisher. And in fact, I've just finished, this one's just come out here, came out in England a few months ago, and I've just finished the third one, which is called Philippa Philippa Fairy? Do you know the other day I was introduced as Emily Kessler in a bookshop? I think she got a bit stressed. Anyway, so, right. Philippa Windsnap. No, it's the third one is called Philippa Fisher and the Stone Fairy's Promise. And that comes out in England next year, and sometime after that it'll be here in America. So that was the fairies. But while I was writing the Philippa Fisher books, I started, the Emily Windsnap books started taking off a little bit, particularly over here, which is very nice, so thank you for that. And I started getting emails from girls all across America, first of all telling me that they wanted me to write a fourth Emily Windsnap book. And then when I replied really nicely saying, I'm really sorry, but I've moved on now, they'd write back with ideas, maybe you could do this and maybe you could do that. And, a few of them were kind enough to actually provide, whole storylines for me. So, I printed them out, put them in a drawer, saved them just in case. And then actually I came to the point where I started wanting to do it too. So the fourth book, which doesn't come out here till next March, but it's a little sneaky peek, is Emily Windsnap and the Siren's Secret. And, thank you. That's nice. That's very nice of you, thank you. This actually comes out in the UK next week. So when I get home next week, and then I'm going to be doing a bit of a book tour in England, because this is my latest book there. And it's out here in March, so you can get hold of it then. But I'm sorry you have to wait. But do wait, because actually I've been working with my American editor, and she's noticed a few mistakes in this one. So if you wait for the American one, then you'll get a better version of it. Okay, I'm just going to end my talk with a tiny sneak peek of this, because my publicist told me that I have to. And she's very nice, and I like to do what she tells me. Okay, it's the very beginning of this book. It's actually a prologue. So, in fact, it's got nothing to do with the main story, so I don't spoil anything. Except it has, really, obviously. It wasn't a night for going out, not unless you had to. Sharp tunnels of wind whistled and shrieked around every corner. Trees bowed and shook and broke. Rain splattered viciously down at the pavements. Out at sea, it was even worse. On the water, the storm had turned swells into walls the size of tower blocks. Waves foamed hungrily like giant rabid dogs. Anyone who knew about the sea knew this meant one thing. Neptune was angry. And anyone wild or crazy or brave enough to be out on such a night might have seen two figures in the distance, way out at sea, way beyond safe. A man leaned out from his fishing boat, calling to a woman in the water below him. Take it, keep it close. What is it? The woman called back, shouting to be heard over the thunderous waves. The man shook his head. I can't hear you. Leaning further out, he added, when it's safe again, find me. How? She called, panic hitting her as hard as the waves that were now dragging them further and further apart. He pointed to the parcel he had just given her. The shell, she thought she heard him say. And then he added something that sounded like, there's magic in it. The woman thought about what she was leaving, and the pain of it slapped against her harder than the next wave. What about? The wave washed the rest of her question away, but he knew what she was asking. I'll look after everything, he called. Everything. Don't worry, it'll be okay. Go now. Go before it's too late. A moment later, the onlooker would have seen them part, each disappearing behind the hills and mountains of the raging sea. And then they would have wondered if they'd imagined the whole thing. Because surely no one would go out on a night like this, not unless they had to. Okay, there you go. I promise that there are some mermaids in it later. Okay, so I've not had the little sign held up at me, but I think I can't remember where I'm going to see it coming from, but I think there's probably about 10 minutes left. So if you want to ask me some questions, then please do. I like questions. Don't be shy. I think, do you have to stand near a microphone? Did someone say you have to stand near a microphone? If you can't, okay. Is that someone going to the microphone? No, she's leaving. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Just curious, I read on your website that you kind of put yourself in the character of the first Emily Windsnap book. Is it true?
Oh, on my website?
Yeah.
Did I say that? I don't think I intentionally did it. I think I once went to see Margaret Atwood speaking. Is she famous over here? She's hugely famous in England. And she once said this thing that stayed with me a long time. She said that you never intentionally do that, but she said there's always a drop of blood in the cookie, which is a slightly creepy way of putting it, really. But I think that what she meant, and I agree with, is that without you realizing it, when you create these things, then you can't help having a bit of yourself in them. So Emily was never meant to be like me, but because the books are told in the first person, so it's her telling her story, and I'm writing them. I think, it was recently my dad, actually, a couple of years ago, said to me, Emily Windsnap's really quite a lot like you. And then he described why, and I actually realized he was right. So, I think she is, but she was never meant to be.
Yeah, you mentioned that you said that you want to be a poet.
Well, when I was little, I wanted to be a poet. But then I stopped writing poems, and then I found out that it's really hard to make a living as a poet as well, so I was quite glad that desire went away, because that would have been really hard.
Yeah, I thought about that. I remember the first book that Emily's dad is a poet, so I don't know if you kind of threw that in there.
Oh, do you know, I'd never realised that, but maybe there's a bit of that as well. I like poems, Thank you.
How many Emily Windsnap books are you going to write?
Well, the fourth one is definitely the last one, but then the third one was definitely the last one. And the second book was definitely the last one. So, I don't know, 17? No, I think the fourth book might be the last one. But if there's an international outcry, you never know. Jump, tiptoes. Oh, it's a long way up. Okay, that's better.
How did you come up with the characters?
How did I come up with the characters? Okay, I'm going to answer this in a way that, please forgive me if this sounds a bit pretentious and highfalutin and whatever, but it's true. I kind of think, I do believe that there's a very famous author in England, Philip Pullman, who I think most of you should know here. He once said something similar to this, so I feel it's okay to say it out loud in public. I believe that the characters kind of exist already out there somewhere. Not in real life. I don't think that they're all here. I don't know exactly how they exist or where they exist, but I think that they kind of exist. And I sort of think that the job of a writer is to try and find these characters and to show them that you're serious about telling their story and try to persuade them to let you tell their story. So I kind of think my job as a writer is to sort of be as nice as I can to my story and hope that it will be nice back, which didn't really maybe wasn't the answer you were expecting. But I suppose just by being patient and trying to be open and then waiting for them to kind of drop out of the sky and say, okay, I'll let you tell my story. I'm sorry if that was a weird answer. Sorry. It's the best I've got right now.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'll come to this side,
How long does it take you to write a book?
Each book, how long does it take? It's taken about a year. I have a book each year published. So in theory, it takes about a year. Sometimes it's taken a bit longer, but recently it's taking a bit shorter. I think I'm speeding up a little bit, but about a year. The last one was about 8 months, actually, so that was a bit quicker. Thank you.
Can you mail me a book?
Can I mail you a book? Well, I would love to, but I would then have to go to a bookshop and buy it and then pay for the postage and send it to you. And it would be much cheaper for you to buy one afterwards at a tent just down there somewhere, I think. And then I'll sign it for you as well. I don't actually have copies. When they come out, I have just enough copies to give to the friends and family who've put up with me for the year while I've been writing it. And beyond that, I don't actually have copies. Sorry. But they're on sale and I'll sign it,
Which characters did you miss the most when you stopped writing Emily Windsnap and started writing the Philippa Fisher books?
That's a really nice question. I've never been asked that. Which characters did I miss most when I stopped writing Emily Windsnap? Do you know, I wasn't actually aware of missing them at all. But after writing 2 other books and then coming back to write Emily Windsnap, it was like I was coming back to some old friends. And that was really lovely because it was like, oh, Mr. Millie, how are you doing? And, oh, Mr. Beeston, he's a baddie, but, he tries his best. And it was really nice to see the characters again. So, I don't think that I missed them, but because I think they're kind of always there, but it was nice to see them again. Thank you. Yes?
Where did you get the ideas for Emily Windsnap from?
I got the idea for Emily Windsnap from 2 different things. One of them is that I really love the sea and the ocean. And I think it's incredible that this ocean is like about 3/4 of the planet, and we know nothing about it virtually. And I think mermaids to me are about the fact that, you know, we don't really know a fraction of the truth about the ocean, and why not? They might exist. No one can tell me they don't. But also from the fact that I love boats, and I love the sea. I'm a bit of a water baby. I'm a Cancer crab is my star sign, and yeah, out of that as well. Thank you. Yeah.
In the first book, you talk about that Emily Windsnap when she swims.
Sorry. Go a little bit closer to the mic so I can hear you.
Okay. When she swims to find Neptune, then she sees all the northern lights. Did you see them? Or where did you get the idea for that portion?
Actually, when Emily swims out to sea, it's similar to the northern. Well, I don't know. I'm glad that you said it's like the Northern Lights. It was never meant to be. It was a sort of very special, magic-y, mermaidy kind of lighty type thing. But maybe this is one of those subconscious things that actually came out of the fact that I'm quite fascinated by the Northern Lights. I've never seen them, but it's my biggest ambition. You see, the only problem with it is it always involves you'd have to take a holiday to somewhere very, very cold to see them. And when it comes to taking a holiday, whenever I'm just about to click on the button on the website that says, you know, Northern Lights in Alaska or wherever you go, I find myself hitting southern Spain instead. So I obviously don't want to do it that much, but I really, really want to see them. Thank you. Yeah.
What's your favorite part about writing books?
Okay, I'll tell you a few favorite parts, because there are lots. One of my favorite parts about writing books is, I'm going to give you a serious answer first. Is the bit where I've spent days or weeks, or occasionally it's been months, struggling with the story and trying to get it right, and everything's just not working, and I just feel stuck and stressed, and I've kind of harangued everybody, and I've phoned up my publisher and asked how much it would cost for me to pay back the contract. No, I've never quite got to that stage. And then it all starts to come together, and those moments are absolutely fantastic. But then the other things I like about it are the fact that if I want to work in my pajamas all day, I can, which is embarrassing when the postman comes at lunchtime with a parcel, because I have to explain that I have been up working since 7 o'clock, honest. And also the fact that I can sit and work in a cafe bar if I want, and I just think I get a bit of a kick out of doing things like that. Okay. And it's just fun making up stories for a living.
Thank you.
Yes.
Who's your favorite character?
Of mine or of somebody else's?
Of yours.
Oh, well, all of them. See, I think that's a bit like asking a parent who's their favorite child. And you know, they're all my babies, so I like them. I've got a soft spot for a few, you know, the wacky ones like Mystic Millie, and, you know, she's a bit bonkers, really. I like her. And I love Daisy, and I love Emily, and Philippa, and all of them, really. Thank you. Okay, two more. We've just got time for the last two questions, I think.
Have you ever seen a mermaid in real life?
Well, do you know what? Have I ever seen a mermaid in real life? I've seen a lot of them in my imagination, and I've been out when I was writing the second book that was set in the Bermuda Triangle. I went to Bermuda and I went out snorkeling, and I might have seen mermaids, but I don't know. I don't think I did. I think I just saw really exciting fish. But it doesn't mean they're not out there, right? That's why I write about them, because I think that they're out there somewhere. Do you believe in mermaids? Have you seen one? No? Would you like to? Yeah? Okay. Right, I've got a website. If you ever see one, will you email me and tell me, because I want to know. Okay. Thank you. We need the proof. It's out there.
I want to be an author.
This is the last question.
What?
The last question now goes to you.
I want to be an author when I grow up. Do you have any tips?
Yeah. Okay, do I have any tips if you want to be an author when you grow up? One, I think that's a great thing. That's fantastic. I think it's a really nice thing to do. Now, I would say don't worry too much about the idea of getting published at this stage, because when you try to get published, it's very hard. You can get a lot of rejections. You get a lot of people telling you to change your work. And when you're young, I think those things can sometimes flatten the enthusiasm. And at this stage, I would say do everything you can to enjoy it. Write about things that you like. If you've got friends who like writing as well, get a little writing group together. You know, like some people have reading groups, have a writing group and get together once a week or once a fortnight or whenever you can and say, right, for the next meeting, we're all going to write about whatever. You pick a topic and come back and share your writing so you can all tell each other how great it is and keep the enthusiasm. Carry a notebook around with you all the time because ideas can come at any time and they usually come when you're not expecting them. So you have to have a little tiny notebook in your pocket and you can whip it out and write it down straight away and just really enjoy it. And if you've got people like parents or teachers who you trust to be nice about your work, ask their opinions. And when they give it, if they say things that you agree with, then go away and change your work. You know, these books take lots of work, and lots of people keep telling me things that make them better. And if you don't agree with it, then have the courage to stick with your own thoughts about it. But most of all, just enjoy it. Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very, very, very much. That was great. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.